Alright, hello again. This is the last video, and this will be the video that I show you how it sews leather. Previous videos, you'll want to look through the threading process, the bobbin winding, and the assembly. Also, how everything goes together in a base. This last video will probably be the shortest, and you'll see just how this machine can go through leather very easily. I'm going to try to get nice and close so we see the function. The crank is to be turned clockwise, so as you sew, you're going to be rotating in this direction. The foot will go up and down using this thing that goes in the back. There is a screw that holds your plate for your bobbin, your needle, which is threaded in this direction. And you'll see here in the operating area, there is a tension screw for the pressure that is being applied for the down. That is how much pressure this foot is going to be applied. That can be released or graduated here. You will also find that this turns the head and it turns the presser foot along with it. One of the things you'll find in this machine is that that presser foot comes in a very bad shape. So you'll want to take that apart and you'll want to file it down until you get teeth that look like this, nice and smooth, and use a metal file like these small ones. You can get larger ones. These are micro files in order to get that thing set up and nice. I used a Dremel, but you'll want the teeth to look as clean as that, and then file them down so they're not sharp. The two screws in the back are what are going to let it out. The head rotates here, and this is going to go down. Your machine is threaded. So let's show you what it looks like in action. I got a couple pieces of scrap leather. These are 4/5 and a 6/7. I have some double-sided tape onto this one that will allow me to keep it into place. And I've taken one of these sides of the leather pieces and I've given myself a score mark so that I can follow it as I go around. So the leather being dry or moist, that's up to you. I think it works whichever way you want it to. If you don't have adhesives in here, it helps to keep the needles clean. Tape is fine, but when you use adhesives, it kind of makes the needle stick. You can rub some beeswax on it if you want to. I'm going to walk it towards me, but when I get to the end, I'm not going to turn my leather. I'm actually going to turn the foot so that it walks at 90 degrees and goes around this piece without moving it. That's one of the beauties of this machine. So I'm going to make sure my needle is in the up position. I am going to pull a little bit of thread, make sure I've got a little bit of an end here, and then I am going to very gently lower my presser foot on to my thing. Your graduation for your stitch length will be the screw that is here. The higher up that goes, the shorter your stitch length will be. The lower that it goes, the longer. I have it set already at a partial medium, so I am just going to go ahead and hold the first threads a little bit just to make sure everything's out of the way. You're going to see it pull a little bit, and I'm going to try to get right on top of the head here so you guys can see what's going on. I'm going to try to be as good and exact as possible. Make it look good today. There we go. And I barely turned that wheel, and I already have it going through the leather. You want to hold the leather in position just until it keeps going. Now, when I get to that next stitch, I want it to turn. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to rotate my foot, not the leather piece. So now it's going to pull the leather in that direction. And now when the presser foot comes up on my next turn, I'm going to go in the opposite way, and it's now going to pull the leather towards me. I just have to keep it even. Now, if this was a larger piece of leather or I'm inside of a bag, you can see how this can sew a square and get you a patch of leather sewn onto the body or the outside of it, and your machine can be running on the inside of it, and you do not have to turn the bag. And that's why this machine, I think, does a lot better than some of the other ones, because the bobbin area is so small and it allows you to rotate the head around so that when you go to do these things, you get around it without having to do much more than just hold your pieces. I made a little bit of a mistake, but looking through the camera here, there we go. Now, one thing that I've come to find, you don't backstitch or it will snap the thread. So come out, get your thread out, pull from here so that you get thread to come out and the bobbin, and then you want to cut some thread here. What I've come to find is kind of good to have is a sewing needle on hand, a thin one, and take one of the top threads and pass it through the next hole so that then you can tie the two threads on the back. That will look like this. So I'm just going to take a regular sewing needle that I have sitting around, and I'm going to pass it through the hole of the needle with much difficulty. That's what happens when you're tired. And you pass it through, so now the thread is on this side. And now I'm going to take the first thread, which was this one here, and I'm going to go through one of these holes too. I find it easier to put the needle all the way down. Just work it through the head of the eye of the needle and pull it through. So now all of my threads are now on the back side. I can then tie these off, burn them, and you have a nice clean finish. If you find that your presser foot is leaving too many marks, then you may need to file this down a little bit more in order to make sure that it's not cutting, and try to sew when your leather is drier, not so wet, so it doesn't leave an impression. So I hope that that has been good for everybody and it's given you some good ideas. If you have any other questions, please feel free, let me know. I am Grassroots Leather. I make steampunk inspired leather craft and a whole lot more. Thank you for watching.